everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today, I wanted to officially announce that I have now begun work on my second book. Throughout 2022, I made a multitude of announcement videos regarding The Charm, which was my first book. Originally a challenge from my 9th grade English teacher on my last day of high school, it ultimately became my proudest and greatest accomplishment I've achieved in my entire life. After over a year of writing and then a few months of editing, I accomplished this massive achievement on March 8th, 2023 by publishing it on Amazon, so I'll attach a link in the description in case you want to purchase it. However, even while writing The Charm, I knew I would eventually write another book to overtake The Charm as my new masterpiece. In fact, I had already begun conceptualizing ideas for a future book during the later stages of writing The Charm, and today, I am officially going to announce my plans for this next book and all of my ideas for it. Enjoy the video. So firstly, what is this book going to be called? Well, if you haven't guessed by the title of this video, the book will be called Childhood's End. Childhood's End follows the numerous conflicts experienced by Rika Lene, an autistic and socially underdeveloped girl from Creekside, North Carolina, a fictional suburb of Charlotte based on the area I grew up in. Rika also attends Creekside Baptist Church, a large Southern Baptist church based on my old church that I've complained about also many times throughout storytime, from the people who left me out and harassed me for it on a church trip called Fuge, to many of my church's hateful and downright unbiblical beliefs. I've talked quite a bit about why my old church was so bad, as well as why it led to me experiencing religious trauma. Rika will undergo many of the same conflicts as I did, especially from her church's preacher and his twin daughters. Her church's preacher is a typical Bible-thumping preacher that yells all the time and has very out-of-date, out-of-touch, and downright unbiblical beliefs, especially with regards to family, gender roles, particularly within church, the economy, purity culture, and politics, similar to church leaders at my old church. But even worse than the preacher himself are his twin daughters. These two girls have bullied Rika since they were super young, and no matter what Rika does, the girls keep bullying her. In fact, prior to the events of the book, Rika talks about the bullying to the preacher, but he claims that it's because Rika is being a quote-unquote bad Christian, and that his daughters were trying to make her a better one, the same justification my old church used for the bullying and harassment I endured there. However, this bullying is not exclusive to church, as Rika goes to school with her bullies, and in her 8th grade school year, she shares her classes with them. It also does not help that Rika has never made a friend in her life, given that she is autistic and has therefore always struggled in social situations. Throughout the book, you will get to learn more about Rika's experiences dealing with these challenges, the mental health issues that plagued her, and her thoughts during these conflicts, since this book is written in first person. On top of course, Rika being shy, introverted, and autistic, she also is prone to bullying due to her interest in hobbies, as Rika is a tomboy. Although she appears, dresses, and acts feminine, her hobbies and interests are things you'd usually expect a man to enjoy, not a teen girl. Some examples of interest and hobbies Rika are into are video games, any kind of metal music, anime and manga, and Rika's career interest of being a mechanical engineer. This has a tendency to not go well with their church, since it believes in strict gender roles and thinks that girls should only be into quote-unquote girl things, while boys should only be into quote-unquote boy things. Her school isn't much better, as later into the book, a teacher of hers tries to convince Rika that she is actually a boy and should come out as transgender, which Rika does not want to do since she 100% knows that she is a girl. But even then, it goes on to confuse Rika and leads to further mental health issues from both her church and teacher. Now, Childhood's End will be split into two different parts, creatively named Part 1 and Part 2. Part 1 takes place during the summer of 2017, specifically on Monday, July 24th, just a couple days before Rika's 13th birthday, being Thursday, July 27th. This part follows Rika's experiences at a church camp called Camp Moores, a week-long overnight camp her church sponsors. Rika did not want to attend, however, her parents forced her to go, so she had to spend 5 days and nights at Camp Moores from Monday, July 24th to Saturday, July 29th. Camp Moores is inspired by both the church camp I attended as a rising 6th grader and Fuge 2018, both of which continue to traumatize me today despite being over 8 and 5 years ago, respectively. Rika gets unlucky to be placed in a group with her bullies, meaning she has to endure them throughout the week. But on top of that, she also has to deal with the camp's wacky and downright stupid rules. For example, campers of the opposite genders are not allowed to even talk to each other since, just like her church, Camp Moores has strict and toxic views on purity culture. Additionally, the camp is also not introvert friendly at all, as they do not allow campers to be by themselves at all, not even to use the bathroom or take a shower, as they must be accompanied by another camper or chaperone to even do basic human functions, similar to American K-12 public schools if you ask me. There are also many more crazy rules, which I'll go into more detail about in my next announcement video. But during her experience at Camp Moores, Rika experienced a lot of bullying from the preacher's daughters. However, what these two girls do to her here is far worse than what could be considered bullying, as they physically beat Rika, call her downright disgusting things, and sexually abuse her. This goes on to make Rika extremely insecure about herself, especially from the sexual abuse, since her church of course has strict and toxic views on purity culture and homosexuality, even in cases of abuse when it is unwanted. Overall, this causes Rika to develop a multitude of trauma and PTSD. In fact, this results in Camp Moores doing the opposite of what her parents had in mind, as it causes Rika to be even worse at communication and socializing. Then part 2 jumps to the beginning of Rika's 8th grade school year. If you read The Charm, this part will kinda be based on it, although there would be a lot of differences to keep it fresh. Anyways, because of her academic success in 7th grade, Rika is placed in a multitude of advanced classes and even some high school courses such as Algebra 1 and World History. This, on top of being part of her school's competitive swim team, causes Rika to endure a lot of stress. But just like how she deals with them at church, she also has to deal with the bullies at school, who end up being in all of Rika's classes. To make matters worse, they are also very popular while Rika isn't, so they often resort to publicly shaming and embarrassing Rika to degrade her self-esteem even further. Things will only get worse and worse until eventually we get to the darkest chapters of Childhood's End. Unlike The Charm where there was only one darkest chapter, Childhood's End will have 3 of them, since my goal with it is to also exceed The Charm in terms of violence and vulgarness. Now, at the same time that all these events occur, Rika also finds herself in the Childhood's End dimension in her sleep, which is of course the namesake of this book. Childhood's End is a dimension in which people who experience a wide variety of mental health issues find themselves in their sleep. It consists of a total of 6 rims, all of which Rika explores throughout the book. Each rim is based on a place that often causes nervousness and anxiety. As an example, the first rim is literally Rika's church, but more empty. The second rim is Rika's school. The third rim is an infinitely large hospital. Each rim is guarded by a vast amount of monsters, but there is one monster in each room far stronger than all the other monsters called the Rim Keeper. If you can defeat the Rim Keeper, you can move on to the next rim. So kinda similar to a lot of Nintendo games like Mario, where you just have to beat a boss before moving on to the next level. Just that in this case, it's a 13-year-old girl having to face off against the multitude of Rim Keepers. Now, Childhood's End is run by a very creepy devil-looking man with huge black wings and a large bloody flail. His identity isn't yet known now, although he will reveal himself near the end of the book. Anyways, he's the leader of all of Childhood's End, as well as the Rim Keeper for Part 6, which I haven't quite come up with too many ideas about just yet, but he'll be more prevalent near the end of the book, although he does show up in Chapter 1 to introduce Rika to Childhood's End. So, that's all that's going on with the plot of the book. Now let's talk about how long I think it'll be, and how long it'll take me to write the book, as well as how long I think it'll be. So, right now, it's quite difficult to say given that I've only written a few chapters so far. However, if I had to take an educated guess, I'd probably expect it to take me a little longer than The Charm took me, so I'll probably have this book finished by the end of 2024. Then sometime in winter or spring of 2025, I'll be able to publish it. So just like The Charm, this too will be a long-term project that will take a little while before it's finished. Now, before I end this announcement, I want to wrap it up by talking about the purpose of this book. So the main goal of this book, on top of overtaking The Charm as my masterpiece, is to shine a light on the Southern Baptist Convention and expose the horrors that America's largest Christian denomination contains, or as I like to refer to them, 21st century Pharisees. From their incorrect and toxic misinterpretations of the Bible to their cover-up of abuse, I plan to expose all of it in Childhood's End. I should mention that while part of my reason for leaving the SBC was in spite of the guys who left me out and then laughed at me at Fuge, I also left the SBC for a multitude of doctrinal reasons, especially with regards to the denomination's beliefs on women, LGBTQ, purity culture, and abuse, since the SBC, including my old church, has very backwards and out-of-date views that aren't even biblically accurate. On top of it, of exposing my church, it will also be a good book for me to write to help with my trauma. As I've talked about quite a bit in Storytime, I have religious trauma. Even though it's gotten better as I've deconstructed and gone through therapy, it still rages on and will likely be with me for a very long time. However, for as long as I've been writing, I found writing to be therapeutic and calming, especially if I'm reflecting on a situation that causes trauma. Like in part 4 of the extensive reflection project, writing about depression and all the other mental health issues I had when I was 13 calmed me down quite a bit and allowed me to better examine that time period. The same went when writing The Charm as well. So I think that writing this book on this topic will definitely help with that, especially since I officially left the denomination very recently and it's still fresh on my mind. So that's pretty much what my book will be about. I definitely have high hopes for it, and I think it'll be definitely overtake The Charm in terms of being my masterpiece. And like I did with The Charm, I'll also record occasional progress updates on it when I update where I update you on progress. The next update for Childhood's End will likely be once I finish discussing Rika's experience at Camp Morse. So be on the lookout for it. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Bye!